My name is Mike Sullivan. I'm a former IRS agent and teaching instructor with the IRS. Welcome to my YouTube station. It's the home of the 5-minute or less video. I've been doing this work for a long time. I've been doing this work actually for 50 years. I started IRS in '73. I worked there a decade. I've been in private practice for 4 decades. I have a whole team of former IRS agents. You can look at us, and you may have seen me on national news. I've been there on all the major stations. You can go to my website at 777irs.com, and you can see me in a coat and tie if you wish to do this. This is the home of the 5-minute or less video. I do these videos for 3 reasons: so you don't get ripped off. Number 2, I educate you. 3, I give you inside information about IRS and how they work. Today, very simply, I want to talk to you today about what is the IRS audit process. Nobody wants to get a nasty gram from Internal Revenue Service, and usually a lot of fear goes ahead and becomes people when they go ahead and they get that nasty gram from Internal Revenue Service. Well, you don't necessarily need to get all anked up and worried unless there's some criminal fraud involved. And in most cases, first of all, you're not going to go to jail as a result of an audit. And do you have a reason to worry? Well, this is how you decide if you're going to hire somebody or not. People ask me all the time, well, I'm getting audited. Let me ask you a question. Should I get representation or not? Here's my simple answer. If you have worry and your gut is unsettled and you think that there's problems, don't represent yourself. You're not going to do a really good job. You're going to fumble around, and IRS is going to see through that. And as a former IRS agent, you can detect people who are really having some issues with documents and records. All you're going to do is usually expand your audit for 3 years. IRS can open that up. If you're confident on your records, just represent yourself. There's no reason that you shouldn't. If you feel your records on a 1 to 10 or a 8 or a 9, go in, represent yourself. There's nothing wrong, in fact, with you doing that. So what's going to happen? Well, you're going to find out right away why IRS audited you. On the initial letter that you get from the auditor, the revenue agent from IRS, they're going to tell you what they want. Those are the items that the computer pulled your return for, and they said something seems wrong. Now, nothing may be wrong, but it appears based on the national averages something's wrong. So the computer simply spits out this notice to a group manager. The group manager looks at the audit, and they assign it to the person in their group who can best handle, or depending on the inventory, who can handle your audit. They have that audit documentation that they want, and they're going to send you that initial letter. At that point, you're going to get a date and a time to appear. So if you want to represent yourself and you feel solid, go ahead and do it. If your stomach is a little queasy and you don't have the records and there's some issues, you immediately really need to hire someone. You can go to the person who prepared your return. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but at the end of the day, it's best to go to former IRS agents who know what they're doing, because they know both sides and what's going on. As a former agent, I know exactly what the agent's going to think, what they're going to do. We're always going to be one step ahead of them because we know the reality. But if you're going to use us, you have to understand we know that back end system ahead of time, and we're going to be very truthful with you. So the whole key for these audits are to contact IRS right away, put a nice neat file together for them, get the information off, and make sure that you're not late on anything. That's a really bad sign. So anyway, what's going to happen is you're going to go ahead and you're going to submit, or go into the office or submit the documentation, and the agent is going to look at those records. Based on what they see, they're going to keep digging, and should they dig more, should they dig? All depends what they're seeing on the initial paperwork. If your records are pretty solid, they may make some adjustments and talk to you about them and stop there. If your records are loose and sloppy, My guess they're going to expand the audit for 3 years. You don't want that to happen. Usually an experienced representative can keep the audit to 1 year. You do not want the audit going 3 years. So what happens at the end of the audit, if you like what the agent is doing, you sign off and say, yeah, I agree. If you don't, which most people do, you can take this case to appeals, where you can have another friendlier person, and a person many times that's more likely to settle, because if they don't settle there, the case goes to tax court. So the appellate division usually is going to be a lot more kinder and give you a lot more grace to settle the case and to close it right there if the records go ahead and at least mat out a little. They're just going to be a little more generous. From there, if you don't like what the auditor, the appellate agent said, your case goes to tax court, where your case gets docketed and you actually go to tax court. Generally, you don't go to tax court right away, because IRS takes the case, they bring it down to an appellate agent to review one more time, and then next, if you don't agree there, your case is going to be docketed. It's already been docketed, but it's going to be heard in tax court. Tax court is about 1 year or 2 years out right now, so it's going to take some time. So the bottom line is, if you feel comfortable, you go into Internal Revenue Service, bring the records, and if you're not, you just hire someone, one of the two. Anyway, thank you for listening to the video. If this information was helpful, this is the information that you want to know. Don't get all angst because you got an audit coming. It's not really that big of a deal. I mean, it may cost you some bucks at the end of the day. You're not going to go to jail, and your life goes on. If this video was good, please go ahead and give me a review if you would, or to subscribe. That's really big, to subscribe. It lets IRS, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. It lets YouTube know we're doing a good job in giving you the information. I apologize, it's been a long day, but you know what I'm talking about. Have a good one. Thank you.